In this video, I want to look at little ways that you can change how you approach your days, how you approach your routines, how you approach your habits that will change the way that you live your life. Because after all, how we start our day can change our mindset like up until dinner time. How we approach our work can impact how we feel throughout our entire days. And how we design our routines can shape our years. Number one, this has had a significant impact in how I approach my days, and it's more focused on a shift in the way that you think. You might have heard the saying, it's a bad day, not a bad life. Drill down on that even further and start breaking your day up into sections. If you muck up your morning, that's okay. Like, it's just the morning part of your day. You have 3 more sections of the day to go. I like to create checkpoints in my life, as many checkpoints as I can. And the most often overlooked are those sections within your day. This is advice that I originally read from Gretchen Rubin in James Clear's newsletter. And she said, instead of feeling like you've blown the day and thinking, I'll get back on track tomorrow, try thinking of each day as a set of 4 quarters. Morning, midday, afternoon, evening. If you blow one quarter, you get back on track for the next quarter. Fails small, not big. I like to think of this in a way that doesn't focus so much on being on track and being on task, but also focuses on how you feel. If you had this morning where you just peppered yourself with all of this self-criticism, then you can hit your mid-morning checkpoint and ask, how can I recalibrate for the rest of the day? If you have an afternoon where you're feeling really bleh and you end up on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, you can hit your evening checkpoint and ask, how can I recalibrate for the rest of the day? How can I take care of myself going forward? Number 2, introduce interstitial journaling for mindful productivity. Interstitial journaling is a concept created by Tony Stubblebine. It is a mindfulness practice that makes it easier to move forward on your to-do list, and it reduces blocks within your day. To practice interstitial journaling at the start of your day, open up a new note in Notion, in Roam, or even just in a blank notebook. Start your first work sessions. This aligns really nicely with Pomodoros, where you work in bursts and then you break. Between each task, take out that note, jot down the time, and write down a few sentences about what you got done, how you're feeling, and what you are going to do next, outlining the first action that you're going to take. Sebastian Marshall from Ultra Working actually developed a very similar concept before interstitial journaling, and he calls it work cycles. On their website, they have a lot of testimonials that say things along the lines of, I was pleasantly surprised to find that I was 3 times more productive than I usually might be. The work cycles method is more structured. It has reflection questions that you ask yourself before and after a work session. Things like, what am I trying to complete? How excited am I about this task? Where's my energy levels sitting? And what distractions came up? How can I do better in my next cycle? This is a technique for anyone, but particularly for people who procrastinate, who find themselves getting distracted, who have trouble focusing. It's something to use when you want to create more freedom in your day. Don't use it as a way to just load more tasks on your plate. Use it as a way to be mindfully productive so that you're making the most out of the time that you've already allotted to working and getting things done. Number 3, ask yourself, does each item on my to-do list come with a context? And then ask yourself, do I actually have time set aside to work on each context in my to-do list? Bear with me, there are examples coming. An example of a to-do with a very clear context is pick up bananas at the grocery store. So the reason this has a clear context is because when you're writing that down, you're not thinking, like, when am I gonna get to that? When's that actually gonna happen? You're like, yeah, I know that on Friday or Saturday, I'm going to be going to the grocery store, and in the grocery store there will be bananas, and I will pick them up, put them in my grocery cart, and tick off that to-do. The context or situation where you're going to tick off that to-do is when you're doing the grocery shopping, and you know that that context is going to come up. An example of to-dos without real context are to-dos like the ones that I used to write pre-life admin days. So a while ago now, if I saw a small to-do around the house, like a curtain that needed to be washed, I would write it down as per the top productivity advice. Capture all of the things that come across your mind. At this stage, you guys have seen me do hundreds of to-dos just like that in my life admin day videos. Adding privacy screens to the courtyard door, setting up my hard drives, moving around picture frames. But back in the day, these things just would never get done. I had work to do. I had fun things I wanted to do. I had goals that I wanted to work on that felt far more important than all of these little things that would eventually build up over time and become annoyances. Then I introduced life admin days. Now, whenever I write down something little in my home that needs to get done, even a little errand that I need to run, someone that I need to call, I know that if I don't get to it like during my weeks, that I'm going to get to it on a life admin day, which is something that I do every month to 2 months. The context of those tasks becomes life admin days. That is the situation in which I know that those tasks will get done. And it's a situation that I actually have scheduled on my calendar that I know is going to happen. In the Getting Things Done David Allen Australian world, he talks about contexts like home and work with an assumption that doesn't apply to me, that if you're at home, you're going to whip out your home list on a weekend and just run through all of these little tasks to do around the house. My home context was far too strongly associated with like chilling out with my partner, having a cup of tea, hanging out with my sister, literally doing nothing, not getting annoying things around the house done, as it should be. Creating themed context for me usually looks like having themed days or themed weeks. For example, a planning day, a thinking day. You might have a goal sprint week, a life admin day, a gist day. It doesn't really matter what these days or weeks are called, so long as you know that they are recurring in your life and that you're going to land yourself in those contexts so that you can address the to-dos that are part of those contexts at some point. And sometimes these contexts just represent headspaces that you need to plan to be in. Without real context, you'll find yourself writing down to-dos that simply never get done. They just live on your to-do list forever. Sometimes that's not a bad thing if they're not meaningful to-dos, if they're not to-dos that when not done will not impact your life. But sometimes they're important to-dos that need to be addressed at some point in time. If you don't have a context for them, they simply won't be addressed. Before I get into the next little upgrade to make, this video is brought to you by Squarespace, the website builder that I recommend to anyone who wants a website because it's so easy to use and it creates beautiful websites. And it's what I use. One of my absolute favorite things about Squarespace, having used a few website builders in my time, is that there are no plugins, there are no patches, there are no updates ever. Doesn't that just give you a sense of relief? Plugins and patches are maintenance that you simply do not need in your life. Squarespace is flexible for any kind of website, whether you are an artiste, a designer, a YouTuber, an author, or you just want a website for you. Click the link in the description down below, squarespace.com/muchelleb. Use the code muchelleb to get 10% off of your first purchase. You guys know that when I was launching my app, when I was like, oh, I need to create a website for this, it was just such an easy process. I hopped onto squarespace.com, I created my website. It took me like a few hours of an afternoon to get something functional and beautiful up and running. If you want to create a beautiful, easy to put together and low maintenance website for yourself, use that link in the description down below, squarespace.com/muchelleb, and the code muchelleb to get 10% off of your first purchase. Number 4, redesign your habits to be flexible. Here is how you are going to do this. Draw up a table that looks like this in Canva, on paper, it doesn't matter. On the top, write 3 habits that give you a similar reward. So for example, meditate, walk, watercolor. All 3 of those things, at least for me, create a sense of mindfulness. This is your habit menu. Each day you can look at this and ask yourself, which one of these do I feel like doing today? On the left-hand side, write down low, medium, and high. This is a measure of your energy, your time available, and your engagement level, so how interested you are in doing the thing. To fill in the blanks, write a tiny version of each of those habits on the top line. Write a standard version of the habits on the middle line. Write a slightly more over-the-top version of the habits on the last line. So firstly, you get the ability to ask yourself, what do I feel like doing today? This gives you a bit of variety and makes your days more interesting. Then ask yourself, how am I on time, on energy, and how engaged am I in the idea of doing this? Everything's on the low end of the scale, you can choose the tiniest version of that habit. If everything's on the high end of the scale, then you can do the over-the-top version of that habit. This allows you to choose your habits with self-compassion, with the idea in mind that you are a human being that needs variety, that needs change, and that sometimes has off days and sometimes has really high energy days. This is a slightly modified habit system of the system that is in Elastic Habits by Stephen Guise, and I actually have a book guide to that book if you are interested in my app Intention that you can download down below. If you liked this video, you'll probably like my Thinking Habits playlist, a playlist of all the videos on the small mindset shifts that I've made that have improved my life. I'm gonna have that on the screen and down below. I appreciate you so very much, and I will see you soon.